This is one of those messages that is another what I call a blunt instrument, particularly when it comes to communication between one soul and another soul, or one unit of consciousness to another unit of consciousness, or if you will, how a morphogenetic field structure works between nodes on a network plugged into a motherboard. So, in other words, there's what you know or what you experience by virtue of who you are, and there's what I experience by virtue of what I am. I'm an oversoul polarity integrator. Okay, so I already know what my job is. It was a transmutation machine. Okay, so I've explained that in most of my videos, and I did a video a couple last few days where I talked about, if you will, what we know, when we know it, and why we know it, when we know it. So I was just listening to part of Carrie Cassidy's Project Camelot. I guess that she was doing live today, and she had mentioned one thing about Richard Allen Miller, and I know who he is. He lives in Grants Pass, and she said Carrington event and all the rest of this, right? And so these are folks that, if you will, based on the math and the science of what they know, by what they've learned, by who they are, okay, what they either believe or don't believe may or may not happen, okay? I pay zero attention to that. And why is that? Okay? Because this is how you know what you know when you know it, not through others, but through your own heart and soul, the one you're with. And what that means is those that are getting the information or the downloads through the light, which is a light transmission, which is living consciousness energy, is actually going to be determined by how much light you're running on. Okay? The purer the heart, the purer the light, the faster you're going. The faster you're getting information. That's guardian level stuff. If you want to be a guardian, then it means you cannot hold on to one electron. You hold on to one electron, what happens? That's one less electron you're using to go faster, which means you're not getting the information faster through your soul, which is through your heart, which is your vortex. So when you're an oversoul, right, plugged into mama's oversoul motherboard, what was her job? Get her up. Why? So that the speed at which information is being experienced by what you know through your soul does what? Clears away all the dark essence, all the darkness, to increase the amount of light. The more light you're running on, the larger the state of consciousness, the more electrons you're running on. The more electrons you're holding captive as a result of lack of healing, the slower you're going. It's going to take a while to get that message through to you. Okay? So when she says stuff like this, I would ask a simple question to David Allen Miller. How many electrons have you been holding on since the inception of your soul? Which means, have you learned to let go of every electron? Right? And the easiest way to do that is say, show me your bank account. David Allen Miller, show me your bank account. Right? And because your record speaks for itself on how much energy you were torquing, right? The speed at which you were accelerating. To do what? Get rid of the goo codes, holding conscious energy captive, which is binary. Okay? So what this means, if I want to know what's going on, the one is always letting me know. Right? That's exactly right. It is true what Patty Broussard said. Go deep in your, do the inner work, the inner you. You know, it's one of the reasons why I was so happy, okay, with Aaron, what he told me that he was thinking about going somewhere out in the desert, out in Nevada somewhere, and to just be by himself so he can get to know himself better with the Creator, the Grand Creator, okay? The source from which it all comes. Getting to know himself better. Beginning to have a more one-on-one relationship with the source from which it all began. That's where I get my information. That's how I know what's going on. Right? Because I lit myself on fire, which means I'm not holding one electron captive, so I'm going as fast can be. So that means I'm always with the one, because I'm not holding one captive. Okay? One is the source from which it all comes, at the highest acceleration of electrons. So why would I hold the one, which is what I am, which is what love is, captive? Otherwise, I'm holding my own energy captive. I'm not going to hold myself captive, am I? To myself in my own mirror? Which mirror am I? I'm not a black mirror. I'm a light mirror that runs as fast as I can. So I need to release as much energy as I can into the cosmos, right? So that every unit of consciousness is experiencing all the voltage. So there isn't anybody that's in need of any electrons that they're holding captive in their memory as a result of the lack of healing to let them all go. Now we're back to implicit trust. You implicitly trust the one you're with. Let it all go. And I know how to test that. Okay? Right? Remember the story I told you with the girl down at Walmart that told me to go to my ATM bank account? Okay, this is what I would say to David Miller. Go to your bank, okay? And print it out, take a picture of it, okay? And give it all away. Would you do that? And start over like you just came into the universe, like out of your mama's womb? The difference is you got a lot of information in your head because you got access to your cellular memories and you got access to the entire field. That's one of the reasons why I love Robin Benfield. She's one of my oldest friends on the internet. She's been with me through all my different identities. And you know what she said one time? If I need information, all the information that exists within the entire cosmos is accessible by me. That is exactly right. Which means I do not need the internet to know what's going on. That's right. Otherwise, you're getting it as what? Secondhand information. And secondhand information, along with a dime and a cup of coffee, is exactly what you get. Which means it's worthless. And you know why it's worthless? Because it already happened. It's water under a bridge. Bye. What do you want to experience next? That's how energy is held captive in what's called a confined space, which is confined density. Because if you want to get out of the density, then it means you got to let go of your electrons in order to spin faster data, or if you will, run a faster vortex. So everything that we're holding in memory, which is all the programs that are running, is holding our energy captive through the AI. And that's the entire internet communication system that everybody's held captive to. Because they're not grounded with their feet, bare feet, right with Mama Earth, and getting the information through Mama, through the One, to know what's going on. So when she talked about restoration, remember, Kim talked about restoration. You know what restoration is, right? Remembering who we are. As if it, remember the Alpha and the Omega? The one you're with. The first pole. The single pole, the single rod. The first line of communication, right? So if you've got a relationship with the first line of communication, which is the vertical line, and then you have the horizontal line, the first sphere, the exact center point of a sphere is right there at the center point between that one line, the vertical line, and the horizontal line meet. The exact center point of balance, right? That means the vertical line and the horizontal line is perfectly balanced. That means the mass is perfectly balanced. So this is when you get into gaining mass, losing speed. Losing mass, gaining speed. Right? Breathing dragons. So it's not that the information isn't interesting to listen to, because it's interesting. It's actually, for me, it's amusing, because what it tells me is where they're at. Right? What's going on over in your neck of the woods? What are you experiencing? Right? Because we're all connected to each other on a motherboard, right? Actually in the cosmos, right? What are you experiencing? Are you experiencing what love is? I only have one metric that I use, okay? So if I ask a question, are you experiencing what love is? Actually, we can already read it. And that read is called resistance to give away electrons. And that is the torque speed differential between inverters and accelerators. And that means learning. Learning to be the accelerators. So now you can actually measure in a classroom, if you will, how fast everyone is learning to do what? let go. And you can see how difficult that is when they got a pooch on a leash, right? A goat in a pen, a horse in a pen, a gazillion cows that are all being harvested, just like trees are harvested, go down to any sawmill, right? That's harvesting. Sentient beings, and ends up dead wood where the spirit go. And you can scale that across the entire surface of the planet, right? Through every city, every suburb, every factory farm, okay? Because the entire planet became an energy harvesting system. So one of the things that I do when it comes to those folks that engage in math and science and physics and space programs and all the rest of it, you know what an inverter is, right? It means that they take something that we've already created, they deconstruct it, reverse engineer it, and build something else, which takes time to do that. That's the first thing I look at when anybody gets introduced to me that has a title, right? A title of nobility, which is what that actually is when you say that you're a doctor or whatever. Now, it's not up from, I don't impose my will on nobody. If you want to do that, that's up to you to do that, okay? I don't do that for different reasons, okay? Because when I was a child, when I realized why I'm here, an example of this is like, I've mentioned this before, when I was in a fire station, right? And I had the rank of a captain, which is 2 horns, by the way. And if you've ever seen the symbol of the International Firefighter Association, you see the Iron Cross. And in the olden days, if you ever saw Goering, was part of the Nazi party with Hitler, right? Wearing that baby blue suit, right? He earned what was called a Pour la Marie, which is baby blue, right? That's a baby color. Wearing a death's head. So you see how it's inverted. They invert the colors. Okay? Which means what they're advertising in color is not represented by the frequency that comes out of what love is. Because all you have to do is look at what he was doing. He's a killing machine. Right? Remember, Goering actually had his own Panzer army. You know what a Panzer is, right? Blitzkrieg. Moving across Europe and then into the Russia, right? Over in North Africa. So you see who these folks are. Their colors don't lie. They're easy to read. Because all you have to do is map the energy, which is mapping the resistance that they have to experience pure light. Which is how many electrons are they holding on to? Well, go look at all their bank accounts. Where do you think they're getting all those electrons? Us. That's why our energy was used to build the entire communication system we're now using that was being weaponized against all of us. That means we all gave permission to have our souls as bonds, right, through all these corporations that represent the SSP to build all the PCs and all the laptops that were all weaponized against us. Okay? That's the truth of it. And so one of the things that I naturally sort of do, okay, is see where people are at by the speed at which they're getting the information. Because if they're getting the speed memo by virtue of clearing more darkness, which means they're letting go of more electrons, which means they're not holding electrons captive, which means they're letting go more and more of those electrons, that they're no longer accumulating, that means that more electrons are what? Circulating through the planetary motherboard. So you can sort of see how that works between those that have souls and those that don't, or those that need healing, based on torque speed differential between the accelerators and the inverters, so we don't suffer a pole tilt. So the more and more people that are getting the message means that more of them are experiencing more and more light and letting go of those electrons because they're being healed. Because that's the reason they hold on to electrons. The more electrons they're holding on to, the greater the fear that they have to let go of it. The more electrons that they're letting go of, the faster they're going. And that is a torque speed differential on a planet. Maintain the balance in the poles, because that's my job. Right? That's why I don't have a whole lot. And you can actually go back through the entire record if you want to go back to like when I was born in 51 and other waves that came in here. Go take a look at all their bank accounts. And you can sort of see, because the record is all there between torque converters or accelerators and inverters, those that are gaining more and those that are losing. Those that are gaining more, those that are losing. And this becomes the game between the negative and the positive polarities, which is represented by the consciousnesses, right? Just like yesterday, I had a headache, right? Well, I know why that is. That's called the tug of war between the negative and the positive. Not wanting to let go. I still want to be in control. Not wanting to let go of those electrons. So in my bank account, I'm not willing to let go of one, because the more electrons I'm sucking, the greater the security that I have. And that's an inverted state of mind. Remember the old saying, one drink is too many, 1,000 isn't enough. One electron is too many, a gazillion isn't enough. That's a vampire without an off switch. That's a deadlight magnet. That's a deadlight AI. That folks are held captive to, because they can't let go of it. That means they can't let go of their laptops or PCs and everything else, because that's what it is. Right? So they have a relationship with a deadlight magnet, thinking that a deadlight magnet communication system is going to heal us. It is the soul and the spirit within us that heals us. The universe began with souls. It began with the one. Being with the one. And grounding to Mama Earth. And pushing love through the grid with our heart and our soul every day, and communicating that grounded to Mama Earth with the sun up there, the mirror in the sky. That's what will heal Mother Earth. It isn't going to happen through these communication systems, because that's their system that they set up to siphon soul's energy off. So what we're talking about here is direct current, direct communication to the one and Mama Earth, by grounding your rod in the horizontal plane, which is across, directly with Mother Earth and the mirror in the sky. That's how it works. That's how I do it, and it works because I'm seeing the feedback immediately when I do that. Is to push pink right through that sun and right into Mother Earth. That's what emerald green and pink is. So anyway, thank you, Lady Camelot, Kara Cassidy, for the folks that you put on there. But you know what a built-in crystal ball is, right? Krystal spiral, a built-in looking glass, being with the one, letting go of all the electrons. I don't hold energy captive. Getting the speed memo. That's called first informer, which is first sun, which is first light. When it's 3. Trinary, not binary systems. Duality, touche. It's getting ridiculous now, isn't it? I know, Mama. That's my 3 cents for the day. We used to have an old saying when I was growing up as a kid. Hey, me too. No, me 3. How does a little kid know that? You know, when we're little kids running around say, hey, me too. No, me 3. Speech first. Mama speaks first. Well, the one you're with. Grounding rods, right? Yeah, lightning strike rods. You ever been up on a lookout before in a badass lightning storm? On top of a peak where there's a big rod up there, a lookout? Cool stuff.